So, review of the last time, we actually went into this part where it's general information, preface, and the forward, showing how the first hundreds recovered. And then here in the doctor's opinion, step one, it was the first half of the first step, which is the physical craving, and also the mental obsession is where we'll begin for this round. So body, mind, and then after this session would be spirit. So we'll move up to page 20. Excuse me. The reason I decided to start doing the podcast is because of health conditions. So, um, the end of Bill's story covers the physical craving. That's where I highlighted where I felt, thought, and drank similar to Bill. It's actually in this one, and I highlighted a few different things myself because it was uncanny some of the stuff that I did think, feel, and drink like Bill. In 1939, he even wrote Death by Musket or by Pot, and there is a mixture of stuff that I included. Um, Remember, this is a textbook, not a novel, so it's meant to be done in order, designed to transmit the truth and the spiritual experience to a reader who knows nothing about what is contained in the book. And we're going to jump to after the highlights ended on page 17. And I actually had a note here that I'm supposed to consider everything I am resistant to, everything I don't like, and everything I don't believe can happen for me. And that's something that I certainly had a large experience with when I first came in, especially anything related to standard religion. I know that I've sent this in hard copy, but here is the text of the set aside prayer where it says, "Please set aside everything I think I know about you, me, the program, and all things." I crossed out spiritual, that I might be open to the spiritual experience and learn the truth about these things. Please let me see and hear what I need to see and hear today. At the end of the day, I had it close with, "Lord, thank you for what I saw and heard today. Amen." So it's pretty simple, but the idea is up until the fourth step, which we're only on page 17, but that's page 64. We stopped saying that. And is to keep an open mind about the spiritual experience through the doctor's opinion, and through even the second half of the first step that we'll get into in the 20s. So, if this is all in view, it appears to be a process that involves surrender without hope, only defeats itself. So, we did go through the surrender stuff, but the first question, is there a solution? We of Alcoholics Anonymous know thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as Bill. Nearly all have recovered. That was underlined. They have solved the drink problem, and that's a 10th step promise here. We are average Americans. All sections of this country and many of its occupations are represented, as well as many political, economic, and religious backgrounds. We are people who normally would not mix, and that's so true. I see that in the rooms of every state I've lived in. There exists among us a fellowship, a friendliness, and an understanding which is indescribably wonderful. We are like the passengers of a great liner the moment after rescue from shipwreck, when camaraderie, joyousness, and democracy pervade the vessel from steerage to the captain's table. Unlike the feelings of the ship passenger, however, our joy in escape, and that's circled because I'm in constant escape, it says. That's what drinking did for me. from disaster does not subside as we go our individual ways. The feeling of having shared in common problem, and I wrote parole, or I'm sorry, common parole when I wrote problem above it, is one element in the powerful cement which binds us. And that's a quote from page 75. You'll see it later on. Here's our warning though, but that in itself would never have held us together as we are now joined. So the first 100 of us in the book, that doesn't mean us today, that were joined. So they're talking about themselves when they wrote it in 1939. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we are, and that's again in this book, we've discovered a common solution, and that's circled. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree, and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism. And so common here is defined, shared by a number of in the group and widely or generally known, and then solution is defined as an action that or process of solving problems. We also defined it in golf to flow over and enclose, because here on 18 it goes to an illness of this sort, and we have come to believe it as an illness. The cue after that, do I believe this is an illness? Do I think I even have it? Involves those about us in a way no other human sickness can. If a person has cancer, all are sorry for him, and no one is angry or hurt. But not so with the alcoholic illness, for with it there goes annihilation of all things worthwhile in life, and that's total destruction of all things worthwhile in life, engulfs, again, to flow over and close all whose lives touch the sufferers. It brings misunderstanding, fierce resentment, financial insecurity, a cue after every one of these. Did I experience this or something? This is the root of all of it. Disgusted friends, employers, warped lives of blameless children, sad wives, and parents. Anyone can increase the list. We hope this volume will inform and comfort those who are or who may be affected. Is this me? Is the question on that one. You see all the cues after that. That's where I ask the question of myself. There are many highly competent psychiatrists who have dealt with us have found it sometimes impossible to persuade an alcoholic to discuss. Was I able to discuss the situation without reserve or with honesty? Strangely enough, my wives, parents, and intimate friends, I wrote my above that because it said they usually find me more unapproachable than do the psychiatrist or the doctor. So there's no safety. And that is the truth, that they find us more unapproachable than the doctor. We push away those that are closest to us. In this paragraph, though, it goes to conditions I have to meet to help someone. The ex-problem drinker, 1, who has found solution, who is properly armed with the facts, 2 and 3, about himself, can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. Until such an understanding of me is reached, little or nothing can be accomplished. And then here's the 12th step. That the man who is making the approach has had the same difficulty, that he obviously knows what he is talking about, that his whole deportment, which is behavior, shouts at the new prospect that he is a man with a real answer, that he has no attitude of holier than thou, nothing whatever except the sincere desire to be helpful, that there are no fees to pay, no axes to grind, and no people to please, no lectures to be endured. These are the conditions. It says, was he like me, or does he live like that? Does he live that way anymore? And does he have an answer for me? So these are the things we want to be asking ourselves throughout the book. Um, Remember, it finished with these are the conditions we have found most effective after such an approach. Many take up their beds and walk again. None of us makes a sole vocation of this work, nor do we think its effectiveness would be increased. If we did, we feel that elimination of my own drinking problem, and it says, is elimination of my own drinking problem enough, or just a beginning? I wrote next to that. Much more important demonstration of our principles lies before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. Not some of us, it says all of us spend much of our spare time in the sort of effort, the work, which we are going to describe. A few are fortunate enough to be so situated they can give nearly all their time to the work, and that's the 12-step work. I do wish at times I could give all the time, but we have to make a living. If I kept on the way, I am going, and crossed it out, made it more personal with I instead of we. There is little doubt that much good will result, but the surface of the problem would hardly be scratched. Those of us who live in large cities are overcome by the reflection that close by hundreds are dropping into oblivion every day. Many could recover if they had the opportunity we have enjoyed. How then shall we present that which has been so freely given to us? Question mark, how am I going to give back and take others through the book? We have concluded to publish an anonymous volume setting forth the problem, is underlined, as we see it. We shall bring to the task our combined experience and knowledge. This book, I wrote above that, should suggest a useful program for anyone concerned with a drinking problem. Of necessity, there will have to be discussion of matters medical, psychiatric, social, and religious. We are aware that these matters are, from their very nature, controversial. Nothing would please us so much as to write a book that contains no bias, no basis for debate or contention or argument. We shall do our utmost to achieve that ideal. This is underlined. Most of us sense that real tolerance of other people's shortcomings and viewpoints and a respect for their opinions are attitudes which make us more useful to others. And that's kind of how I can get some things going to be more useful to others. It is hard at times because we all have opinions. Our lives, our very lives as ex-problem drinkers, depend on our constant thought of others and how we may help meet their needs. Why do I even do it in the first place? It says you may already ask yourself, why is this? Is it that all of us become so very ill from drinking? Question. Doubtless you are curious to discover how and why, and that's underlined, in the face of expert opinion to the contrary. We have recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body. If you are an alcoholic, Q, am I one, who wants to get over it, Q, do I want to get over it? You may already be asking, what do I have to do? Circled, because it is the purpose of this book to answer such questions specifically, and that's underlined. We shall tell you that we have done before going into a detailed discussion, underlined. It may be well to summarize some points as we see them. How many times people have said to us, I can take it or leave it alone. Q, why can't he? Why don't you drink like a gentleman or quit? And I crossed out you and said I, or this fellow can't handle his liquor. Why don't I try beer and wine, lay off the hard stuff? My willpower must be weak. I could stop if he wanted to. She's such a sweet girl, I think